the Royal Blue Podcast from the Liverpool Echo.
Hello and welcome to the first ever edition of Analysing Everton, your tactics and analytics podcast, courtesy of the Royal Blue channel. To my left is Mr. Josh Williams. I'm David Hughes, of course. Josh, how are you, mate?
Good, mate. Yeah, this is going to be a bit different to what we usually do, isn't it? Well, certainly myself, at least.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's would it be right in saying it's your first ever Everton podcast?
It is, yeah, first ever Everton podcast. But hopefully, I'm prepared enough to keep up with yourself.
Yeah, well, I mean, it won't be hard, mate. Let's be honest. Yeah, what we'll probably do is maybe introduce ourselves a little bit to people listening. Talk a little bit about the pod and then crack on. Obviously I'm a tactics and analytical content writer, I suppose, at Reach PLC. So Reach cover Liverpool Echo, Manchester Evening News, Newcastle Chronicle, Football London, quite a few of the local journalism outlets. And the idea is just to bring a little bit more tactics and analysis to mainstream media. That's pretty much the same thing for you, isn't it, Josh, in the same role?
Yeah, we're the first two in the company with these roles. We were appointed around a year ago now. The technical word for the role is football scouting writer. And as David said, we're just responsible for providing mainstream football analysis, really the kind of thing that you'd see on Monday Night Football. Is what we do daily. Just providing insights, delving into tactics. And rather than using like traditional cliches to address certain situations, we will maybe go a bit deeper to actually assess whether that's the truth or, you know, things like that. So hopefully we'll be able to provide a bit of an alternative angle on what else is out there, basically.
Yeah, definitely. In terms of the podcast itself, you may or may not be aware, I assume a lot of people listening or watching won't, but we both do a show called Analysing Anfield, don't we? Which, ironically, obviously, I'm an Everton fan. Josh is a Red, but we've never found any issues with that, have we, at all? Because of the, I think just the way the podcast is, it's nothing really to do with rivalries or trying to, you know, one-upmanship, is it? It's just analysis of the game. It's no point scoring, you know. I should point out very early on, if that's what you're looking for, you're probably better going somewhere else, because this isn't it. We're not going to be doing it on this show. But yeah, Analysing Anfield started this year, didn't it? It's been quite a success.
It's went down really well, yeah. We do an Analysing Anfield episode every week. And we just address the things that I've basically just mentioned there. And it's went down really well to the extent that, you know, it's worth branching out. And, you know, we don't tend to discuss, you know, refereeing decisions or VAR or anything like that. We tend to keep it quite analytical and most of all unbiased. I think we, you know, assess certain situations completely objectively. Yeah. And, you know, hopefully you'll get a gauge of what we're about throughout the first episode today. Yeah,
hopefully. That probably takes us on to where we're going to go with the show. With it being the first episode, I thought it'd be good to maybe just almost take stock of Marco Silva at Everton. Obviously, we're into his second season now. We're coming close to the end of November, nearly December, so we're getting a good gauge as to where he's at. So we'll look a little bit of the staples of his philosophy at Everton, what we've seen so far. General thoughts on Everton so far this season. You know, the good and the bad, really. And then have a look at a few players. One I'd like to look at, because I seem to be talking about him all the time, is Iwobi.
Big fan.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. And then we'll have a quick reflection on Southampton. I mean, it was nearly 2 weeks ago now, so we won't loiter too long. And then we'll have a look ahead to Norwich, which could be a big game given the fixtures Everton have got on the horizon. So yeah, we'll look at Marco Silva initially at Everton. Josh, you know, last season he finished 8th. Everton are currently 15th under him. I mean, it doesn't look great on paper, does it? But is it, in your opinion, is it as bad as it seems? Or
well, what you've just said there is a good point, that it doesn't look great on paper. But I think what we're hopefully going to do is provide a bit of insight into why it's important to look beyond that. Basically,
yeah,
football's obviously a very low scoring game, and the majority out there are inclined to focus on results and determine their own opinions based on that. But if you actually do look a little bit deeper, you get an insight into the story. And I think, I mean, I don't get to write about Everton a great deal because, you know, you're the blue in the group, so
Yeah.
you write about them most of the time. But there was a period last year, around the January period, I think it was, or something like that. I actually got to write about Everton for one of the first times. And I analysed, you know, what he was doing, the numbers and that objectively.
Yeah.
As though I didn't really know Everton. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
From
like a blank canvas.
Yeah, blank canvas, yeah. And it was just quite evident that, like, for me, I think what he's trying to do, he's trying to instill like a modern, quite assertive, high energy game, high tempo. But at the time, I wasn't entirely sure that the actual squad as actual players was suited to that. Hence, you know, I mean, Everton obviously intense presses. I'm sure we'll get to that.
Yeah,
it's very intense without the ball. But I think one of the things I picked up on was that because they don't really have the entirely suitable players in possession, the possession-based players, it kind of resulted in the ball almost pinballing in and around the midfield area for 90 minutes. Yeah. Basically, that was how I deemed it, you know, objectively speaking at the time. I think the recruitment's improved slightly. I think you've gradually improved upon what was there last year. But I do see similar issues in terms of he's trying to instill a certain brand of football. He is doing it as much as he can, really.
Yeah.
But I just see certain player profile issues here and there.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, totally agree with that. I think, you know, I had a look at the numbers myself at the end of the season, just in some key departments, because a lot was made of the fact that Everton replicated an 8th place finish, which is what they did under Sam Allardyce the season before, which on paper looks to be a non-improvement. Yeah. But in reality, that wasn't the case. You know, some of the key areas I noticed, he scored 54 goals last season, which ranked 8th in the Premier League. The season before, it was 44, which ranked 12th. They actually had the 5th best defence in the division last season, conceding 44 goals, which I think is interesting. There was also improvements in the number of shots they had, number of shots they faced as well. There was improvements all across the pitch.
Well, that's the thing, though. What you've said there, I think defensively since Silva's came in, I think you've been relatively fine.
Yeah. But a lot of people wouldn't think that, would they?
Well, no, maybe not.
No. But I agree with you, and it's something that we'll come on to. You know, a lot of people perceive us a little bit weak in defence, but in reality,
what I was going to say there, though, was, you know, I think it's easier to coach a defence to be good without relying on the individual quality of those players. I think you can coach not any defence, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas with the ball going forward, you are naturally reliant on a player's ability to execute a pass or find the back of the net with a shot.
Yeah, he's spot on.
So I think that's where Everton have maybe struggled a little bit under Silva. And that's where the recruitment's eventually going to come into it, I suppose.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, some of those staples we talked about, I think he on the whole tries to prove the more domineering side in possession. I think that's fair to say. You know, they ranked 7th last season for the ball possession. So far this season, they're around, I think it's around maybe 8th. But I wouldn't class Everton as a ball-obsessed side, so to speak. You know, they are happy to relinquish the same against better sides in possession. We saw that quite a lot last season at Goodison, where some of the bigger sides come to Everton, and Everton were happy to just sit back and soak up the attacks before, you know, quickly transitioning into counters, and obviously they put a good run together. You touched on it earlier, which I think is a really good point. Even when they are without the ball, though, they do press, don't they? They press very aggressive.
They do, but I did check today.
I know what you're going to say.
Yeah, it's quite a little bit surprising.
Yeah, I mean...
I'm not sure if that's just as a result of how recent matches have went in terms of the game state, Everton taking leads or whatever.
Yeah, the thing is, even though we've got a better sample size this season of 12 games, it still can be heavily influenced by 1 or 2 fixtures, can't it? But, you know, just a bit of context, last season, in terms of passes per defensive action, which is a metric used to basically assess how many passes allowed by an opponent before looking to actively make a defensive action. Everton ranks second in the Premier League behind only Manchester City with an average of 9.26. It's a little bit more relaxed this season at 10.51, which ranks still in the top 10, doesn't it? But it's more mid-table, would you say?
Yeah, but a couple of weeks ago, it was much higher, wasn't it?
Yeah, so
I'm inclined to think that with that being the case, maybe it's heavily related to obviously the fact that Everton have had slightly better results lately. Is that am I right in saying that?
Yeah,
Simply because I think you're more inclined to press when you're losing, basically, because you need, the emphasis is on you to go and win the game kind of thing, to go and get yourself back in the game.
Plus, we've seen echoes of this, haven't we? Obviously, it's a much less extent with Everton, but we've talked about Liverpool on the Analysing Anfield show, haven't we? About how their presses on paper look to relax, but thing is, a lot of the sides just sit back now, don't they, against Liverpool, and when they do get the ball, clear the ball forward. And I just wonder with Everton trying to see more of the ball, a lot more sides are happy to sit back, which means that then there's less requirement to press, isn't there?
Yeah.
So I think that's certainly some of the areas. There's definitely been improvement, shall we say, in the side. And as I said, the main staples I'll probably take from it is they like to try and dominate as much as they can in possession. They press aggressively. And I also think he's trying to maybe veer the side more towards creating a quite fluid attacking front four, as opposed to maybe relying on. So when Everton's last kind of half decent striker was Lukaku, who was a main target man who was there to provide the goals, do all the running and basically be the focal point. It seems like now he's looking for something a little bit more fluid and interchangeable. Would you agree?
I would agree, but again, I think it comes back down to the players. I think if you want that, you need to have players almost that naturally complement each other's tendencies and things like that. Like, we obviously don't want to keep using Liverpool as an example, but
no, but
if you do have Roberto Firmino up front who's dropping off, and you've got Mane and Salah who inclines to running behind, that's a perfect storm sort of thing. So I think Everton have a variety of players, but they've got quite weird profiles, I think. Like,
totally.
Bernard and Iwobi, Richarlison, Calvert-Lewin, they're all specific types, specific strengths that I'm not sure they benefit one another. Yeah.
I mean, I think Calvert-Lewin's really good for in terms of if we are looking for that target man kind of role. I think he's really good at, holding the ball up, bringing other players into play. I think he's the first defender when they are pressing the ball. But yeah, I think, criticism with Richarlison is he's very goal focused. He isn't always. I'm sure he might only have 2 or 3 assists since he's joined the club, which if you think for predominantly a wide attacker, you'd expect a little bit more.
You would, yeah, but again, I don't think it's overly problematic from Richarlison's perspective, because you say he's overly goal focused, but I'm not sure too many in the Everton side are.
No, yeah, it's not a criticism of him. It's more in terms of having that kind of attacking quartet.
Yeah, that's what you mean, yeah.
It proves quite difficult. So yeah, I think there is clear philosophies in place. It is just a case of trying to, as you said, having the personnel to really implement it. And maybe it's a good time to talk about recruitment. Brands come in just before Silva in the same summer. Without putting you on the spot in terms of specific personnel, what have you thought as a whole of Everton's recruitment?
Over the course of a number of years, strange. And a bit confusing.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, the famous 3 number 10s in one summer, I think it was, wasn't it?
Oh, it was bonkers, yeah.
I think that's why you get someone like Brands in, because I think he's responsible. His main goal has to be to build a healthy squad that is suitable to executing whatever Silva wants on the pitch, whatever Silva's identity is.
Yeah.
We've just tried to provide a brief overview of it there. He needs the players on the pitch to be able to actually execute that game.
Yeah.
I think there's certain players in the Everton team that maybe aren't overly suited to what Silva wants, maybe, and those players obviously have to be phased out, and more suitable players have to be phased in.
Yeah.
And gradually, you'll just naturally see a progression on the pitch in terms of the game being executed better and more complete.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, if he was involved in signings as early as Richarlison and Lucas Dean and players like that, Bernard as well, I think was a free transfer.
Yeah,
wasn't
he picked them out. Yeah,
they're relatively low risk transfers for me. I've got no issues with them. Lucas Dean's certainly a great signing for me.
Yeah.
Bernard again, as I said, little bit of a strange player, not particularly an output merchant.
Yeah.
But considering free transfer, as I said, not much risk there. So
you can. I found with Bernard, he's got sometimes consistency issues, but he's probably the best left-sided player Everton have, to be fair. You know, we brought Iwobi in, but I'll save the Iwobi talk for a little bit later in terms of his best position. I just
think it's important for him to not make mistakes in the market.
Yeah.
I think it'd be better to almost not sign anyone than go and sign someone who's potentially going to be a high risk. You don't want to take risks in the transfer market.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I think that was something that they were juggling with this summer. You know, they clearly wanted another centre back. They wanted Zuma, couldn't get him for whatever reason it turned out to be. And it was, you know, did they really want to iron out another 40-50 million on a centre back who isn't going to definitely improve the side?
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. If you look at, I mean, the perfect example is Man United at the minute.
Yeah,
I think they've consistently over the years splurged money basically on players that they think that they need and they think that are good.
Yeah,
but I think we're at a point now where it's beyond just signing good players. Everton needs to avoid just signing good players. You've got to be signing players that are suitable, players that fit the game model sort of thing, and are also obviously good. But like, you know,
we'll take it to that next level really, because you know, at the end of the day, Everton's current ambition is to break away from the side chasing the top six and actually be part of that top six. So you do need players that can not only maintain the side you are, but improve it.
It's about consistency for me regarding recruitment.
Yeah,
constantly going forwards rather than, because I think if you do make a bad signing, it almost has the effect of one step forward, two steps back.
Totally,
because you're then lumbered with that player. You have to find a way of fitting him in. If he doesn't fit in, he's, you know, wasting money, sat on the bench sort of thing. So
I think as a whole, though, from what I've seen so far, because there was some murmurs of criticism of Brands and in the summer because they didn't deliver centre back, which is what they really needed. I mean, luckily, all the eggs were put in the basket of Yerry Mina to come in, and he's probably Everton's best centre back. In fact, maybe in the show in the future we can have a proper drill down into him. But he's been fantastic this season. And you've got, I think Kean struggled a little bit. I'm still not sure about Kean. I don't know if you have any opinion on him.
No, I'm the same, to be honest. Yeah.
I think he had.
This is what I mean in terms of signing players that are suitable to executing your preferred game.
Yeah,
he's a player who, okay, he showed promise, but he's moving up from a Burnley, so that's an entirely different game. You're playing in a low block for the majority of the time, soaking pressure rather than defending on the halfway line.
Yeah,
I just think it's different responsibilities, and I'm not overly sure whether he's entirely suited. He looks a bit out of place for England too.
Yeah, he does. He looks like he could only ever achieve squad play, in my opinion, at England level. And yeah, I agree. That's where he seems to get found out. You know, if you think about a Burnley, as you said, they're sitting in a low block. You're probably facing a lot of balls into the box, or you know, sitting deep, just lots of interceptions. And then you come to Everton, and you need to be. As I said, they want to play a higher line. You need to be prepared to, you know.
You need to be more of an all-rounder, don't you?
Exactly, yeah. And he isn't doing it, so. But luckily, Holgate's seemed to really stepped up over the last few weeks, and they look a fairly solid centre-back pair, and so fingers crossed there. But yeah, just going back to Silva, I think Brands, I'm actually fairly content with the signings he's made. A big thing I should flag is I was having a look at the average age of the squad before they come in, and it was 29 and a half, which is quite high. And now with this season, it's been brought down to average age of 25.
It's been brought down in more ways than one as well, because as I said before, so I think you initially had a very big squad.
Very big squad.
Players that just had no place really there and needed a bit.
Not even bench
of an
players.
overhaul.
Yeah, just players just kind of taking the wage. And yeah, so it's what I think it's been a period of transition for him coming in and working behind the scenes with Silva. I think he's managed the situation really well, or as well as could be, because one thing you got to remember as well is he's thinking about the long-term prospects of the football club in terms of bringing the average age down, investing for the future, whereas he's battling against Silva, who'll be thinking short-term results. Only he'll be thinking about getting the best players in, no matter the price, for who's going to influence the side, and that creates in itself a bit of a juggling act for them.
Yeah, that's where you've got to get the balance right. That's when you've obviously got to sign players that are youthful enough to improve their value with time. But, you know, at the same time, you've got to sign players that can contribute immediately, or you'll fly down the table. So they've got to offer that long-term potential, but they've got to have enough quality to contribute as soon as they come in, sort of thing.
Definitely.
But especially if you have positions of need. It's different if you've got a squad or a first 11 that's already really strong and a player can be gradually integrated behind the scenes. But I think once you start your move forwards, once you start your rebuild, the players you sign are probably going to come in immediately into the first 11. They're probably going to want to improve the 11 immediately. So
and this is what I think he's done well. No, if I think of the first three names on the sheet for me, I'd be looking at on the team sheet. I'm coming from Yerry Mina, Luca Dean, and Richarlison. They're all players that have been bought in the last 18 months.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. You just got to build on that, really.
Yeah. But anyway, we'll move on to maybe general thoughts of Everton so far this season. You know, as I said, they're in 15th, but it is important to note, isn't it, that the table's so congested this year. You've got between 5th and 15th, where Everton lie, is 3 points. So, although it seemed underwhelming, there's still 3 points off the top six. Have you got any thoughts on how Everton have kind of performed this season? Maybe more underlying numbers than what people are seeing in the table?
Yeah, well, that was what I was going to say then. I think one thing we're going to be about every week on this podcast is the whole underlying numbers perspective on the game. So, you know, people will be inclined to call them stats and things like that, and I think immediately you have a negative connotation attached to stats. But for us, the way we use them, they're basically performance indicators. That's how we describe them, performance indicators. So, I mean, I saw you recently put out something about how many shots Everton have faced.
Yeah.
And people were inclined to say, you know, it's pointless because we've conceded 17 or whatever it is.
Yeah. That was actually really frustrating because, I won't take you thunder in terms of finishing that sentence, but yeah, you know, that's just people. If you do want to see the tweet, it's on @DA_Hughes_, and it was basically just stating that Everton have faced the 5th lowest number of shots across Europe's top 5 leagues this season, which on the surface of it seemed bonkers, didn't it? Couldn't believe it. But as you were saying, sorry mate,
yeah, but that's what I mean. No, people are inclined to say, yeah, but we've conceded 20 or whatever. But at the end of the day, the two coincide in terms of one tends to relate to the other. One tends to, you know, you got to be bothered about the process rather than just looking at the outcomes.
Yeah.
So rather than looking at solely the outcomes, we try to look at what influences the outcomes. And if you're facing very few number of shots per match, then it's likely that over a long period of time you're not going to concede that many, and your defence is decent, really.
Yeah.
But, you know, looking at Everton beneath the surface, for me, they look comfortably at least the 6th best team in the league. You know, I wouldn't go much lower than that just based on the numbers. They tend to shoot about 5 times more than their opponents per match. I think opposing teams find it generally difficult to generate shots against Everton. Obviously, they tend to press, they're inclined to press. There's slight issues once that press is broken, because teams tend to generate clear-cut shots once that happens. But
I think that was the underlying narrative that you could maybe take, wasn't it, from the pointing out the 5th fewest number of shots faced, was that, you know, there is a narrative in there, and the chances are that, you know, Everton on the whole restricted opposition in terms of shots, but when they do concede shots, they tend to be of a high value.
Yeah, I said to you the other day, we had a period a couple of years ago, Liverpool, like that. We were really good on the defensive side of the game, pressed intensely, but whenever teams did break our press, they'd just score, and we'd suffer major results as a consequence when the performance levels from match to match were really, really strong. And I think Everton are vaguely similar in that regard.
Yeah.
I
mean, I was having a little gander at the non-penalty XG rankings today, and Everton ranked 4th in the table. And they also ranked 4th in the table for non-penalty XG against, which, again, on the surface is decent, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I was just going to say, people point... anyone I've spoke to this about away just in general chit-chat who kind of keep an eye on things such as like expected goals, etc., they've been inclined to point out that Everton had a fairly easy run, which they did, of course, but they've still played 3 of last season's top 7, including the champions of... the eventual champions last season. So,
you know what? Considering this is the first episode, maybe we should provide a definition of expected goals. Maybe
go on,
just
mate.
To give a well. Do you want me to just
go ahead. Yeah,
I'll tell you what. I'll use the standard Newcastle example, the one that we always go for. Well, expected goals anyway. Say for example, you shoot from 40 yards out. That shot will have a value of about 0.01, maybe. And that's because it's scored roughly 1 in 100 times. It's got about a 1% chance of being scored based on history, based on the history of football.
Historical shot data, basically.
Yeah. Whereas if you're taking a penalty, maybe, that's likely to have an XG of about 0.76. And that's because roughly 76% of penalties are scored. So, XG provides an insight into the performance level of a team in terms of creating shots compared to the shots that the opposing team created against them. And obviously, once a shot is created, you're reliant on a player to be able to finish. You're reliant on a player's finishing ability. XG obviously just considers as though every player is exactly the same. The average player, would the average player score this 1% of the time, 36% of the time, 76% of the time? And, at the end of a match and at the end of a season, you can get a gauge as to whether, if every player was a robot, whether Everton deserved better results or worse results, or, that sort of thing.
I mean, you touched earlier the performance indicator. XG is a fantastic performance indicator, I think. It's not perfect at all, and the more as the shows go on, you'll find us probably go into a little bit more detail, won't we, about maybe flaws and the same. But if we use Everton v Southampton as a good example, Everton had 19 shots, and traditionally people would look at a shot count and determine how dominant the side were. But in reality, the XG combined for all those shots was 1.47, according to a specific model.
It was 1.74, I don't know why.
No, 4.7, which is kind of the better side on the day. But I bet people at home would be assuming 19 shots would probably generate a much higher XG.
Yeah, no, I think generally you would be surprised how few shots are actually scored, how few shots result in actual goals. And, I mentioned the Newcastle example, I didn't even say it. A couple of years ago, for example, Newcastle, I think it was 2011-12, finished 5th under Alan Pardew. They finished above Liverpool, above Everton, above Chelsea. They give Alan Pardew the famous 8-year contract. In the summer, they didn't really change a great deal. They sold Demba Ba, brought in Debussy, I think. Wasn't a great deal of change. But the following season, he finished about 15th. And, Mike Ashley obviously couldn't get his head around it. But those that would have used performance indicators such as XG, shots, goal difference and things like that would have been able to foresee that coming.
Yeah.
Because the previous season, I think Newcastle finished 5th, but only with a goal difference of about +5, whereas Chelsea finished 6th with a goal difference of about +19. So, in other words, Newcastle benefited from the results, but the actual performance levels on the pitch, the majority of the time, matches were really in a balance. Newcastle got the lucky goal and benefited from the likes of Papi Cisse converting low quality chances, but it was unsustainable really, and you'd be able to get an indicator on that if you looked at the performance numbers. So that's one of the reasons we look at it. It gives you a better long-term gauge on how a team are going to perform, whether the team's results are deserved, as opposed to just looking at, did we win, sort of thing.
Well, even another most recent example, whilst I haven't got the numbers, was, I think this is a good example because certainly, expected goals and was sort of on the radar. Well, definitely was on the radar actually in 2019, and when people were looking at Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, you know, a lot of the traditional pundits out there was saying, give him a contract. You know, he's got United playing the United way, but you know, the kind of blogs on the seedy part of the internet were saying, no, this isn't going to sustain, and there's a big problem coming. And of course, post PSG, that night where United obviously somehow overcome that result in Champions League, everything after that has been a bit of a mess since, hasn't it? And there's still question marks over whether he will be the manager long term. But you know, looking at the XG numbers for that phenomenal run they had on the way to that night in PSG, it was pretty obvious, wasn't it, that they were just overperforming massively.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. And, you know, just taking it back to Everton, from Everton's perspective, I'm not really sure if it's a positive or a negative. I think it's probably a positive, but looking at their numbers objectively, it looks as though rather than being lucky, as Pardew was and as Solskjaer was, it looks like Silva's unlucky, if anything.
Yeah, he is,
It looks like Everton's numbers suggest a team, as I said, that's about the 6th best in the league, maybe, around that. But, you know, they're positioned in 15th because the chances that they are creating maybe aren't really being finished. Like, I looked at, you know, the players in Everton's team, and Bernard is the only player who's scored more than he's been expected to score, according to XG. Every other player has scored fewer than not every other player, but, you know, there's not a great deal, and there's no player that's greatly overperforming his numbers and doing Silva a favour, basically.
Yeah, well, I think that's a really good point you make, and probably moves us on to why Everton aren't where they should be according to the underlying numbers. And I think that's one you've just flagged perfectly there, that they're just not finishing the chances, are they, really, that they're creating for themselves. Another thing is, you know, I touched on before that they tend to dominate, or the more dominating side without actually wholly dominating the game. Do you understand what I'm trying to say there? So they're the better side normally, but they don't do enough in terms of dominating the game to secure the win. And I'll back it up with some numbers. So obviously this season they've averaged 1.08 goals per game, and they've conceded 1.5. The XG is an average of 1.31, and they've conceded an average XG of 1.12. So really there, although if we look at the XG solely for now, they're the better side in terms of XG, there's not enough dominance to kind of overcome the variables or the kind of madness that can happen, or the random events.
Random events,
that can happen within a 90-minute match. And, you know, prime example of Everton kind of suffering from these, you had the VAR decision at Brighton, which obviously proved to be wrong, but the game's finally poised at 2-1, and that leads to a 2-2, and then obviously a 3-2 via an own goal.
Yeah, I think City are the perfect example of what we're talking about there. One of the reasons Guardiola consistently wins leagues and consistently wins matches and things like that, every year he gets in and around 100 points, which is relatively unheard of, is because the way his teams play, he exhibits dominance over the opposing team, not just in possession, but, you know, consistently City seem to take roughly around maybe 17, 18 shots per match, and they face about maybe 6. So if in every match, I don't care who you are, you're taking 18 shots and the opposing team's taking 6, you're going to win the majority of them.
Yeah.
And the more you can get that in your favour, the more likely you are to win the match, regardless of random events that can occur during games, like red cards or, you know, penalty decisions or things like that. And
it's important to know from an Everton perspective, you know, Josh mentioned it before, but Everton averaging around 12 shots per game and the opposition's 7.8. So, you know,
that is decent.
Yeah, Everton are on the right track, aren't they?
Yeah, that is, you know, sound. I've got no issues with that. That's, you're out shooting your opponents on average by about 5 shots a game. That, as long as it increases, which it should do if you continue to sign better players. Yeah, you know, that's an upwards trajectory.
Yeah. Another thing we should point on, but we won't stay on it. I'll just flag it quickly because you've probably spoken a million times about this with your mates down the pub or at the game or whatever. But set pieces have been killing Everton as well for the last 18 months. they've conceded 7 so far this season and 16 last season. That's 32% of all their league goals are being conceded from set pieces.
It's not great.
It's an Achilles heel, isn't it, really?
It is, yeah.
If you can just try and get down to that to maybe 10 or 12%, then you're going to see a huge difference in your results because, as we mentioned many times on other shows, football is a low-scoring game and a goal will often be a deciding factor in a match.
Yeah,
So,
like, for example, I'll just give you an example on that. It's also an Achilles heel of Chelsea at the minute. Frank Lampard's team. Chelsea, most matches do tend to dominate their opponents this season. They're doing very well. All their results are deserved according to the numbers. But they do seem to be suffering at the hands of set pieces. For example, they played Liverpool a couple of months ago. Fairly even game. Don't think there was much in it at all. Liverpool scored from a direct free kick and a free kick that was delivered into the box and headed in.
Yeah.
So,
it was a well-worked free kick just to add, wasn't it? It was
definitely well worked, yeah. But that's the kind of thing that, like, you know, despite your performance levels being good, you can easily suffer at the hands of set pieces because of what you just said regarding football being a low-scoring game.
Yeah, and we know as well that's it. It's certainly top sides now when investing a lot into profiting from set pieces as well, which will naturally filter down into the sides chasing them in the table, and that means that not only are these sides who struggle to defend against them struggling, but they're also facing more, I don't know, what's the term I'm looking for, a bit more advanced coaching mechanisms or thought processes behind set pieces now, rather than it just being a whip ball into the cross. Choreographed, perfect, yeah. That's the best way to articulate it. So it's something that you really need to be good at defending against. So I said the sides are good for Everton, aren't they, really, in terms of underlying numbers? And I think they've got a real tough run. If we have a look at the fixtures, they've got, after Norwich, got Leicester away, Liverpool away, Chelsea at home. Probably the 3 best teams in the league. 3 of the 4, City in there as well. So that's tough. And then you got United away, Leicester in the Cup, and then Arsenal at home. So it's a ruthless run of fixtures. Do you think that we might have similar performance levels after them, or you could see a drop?
Well, this is what we're saying, really, isn't it? The performance levels that we're talking about here. What we're saying really is, if Everton continue to perform exactly with those performance levels up until the end of the season, they should be fine. Yeah. Because what they're doing is enough to win the majority of matches if every single player was exactly the same level. The difference is that you know, they're not, and set pieces come into it, and refereeing decisions come into it, and things like that. But I'd expect Everton's performance in regard to the numbers to tail off a little bit in terms of facing top opponents, though. Yeah. You're not going to be dominating. I mean, who exactly? I mean, you face Liverpool, don't you?
Yeah. So we got Leicester away, which could obviously be a tricky fixture. Chelsea at home, we know Chelsea. We've been really impressed by Chelsea. I think that'll be a really tough game. But I must say, those 3 games are really tough. But United shouldn't really be a side that have feared. Okay, I'm
not sure Leicester either. I mean, we have addressed Leicester, haven't we?
And we know that they may be on the brink of a drop off at some point.
Yeah, just based on Leicester's numbers, you would get the perspective that they have benefited a lot from aspects such as luck and red cards and things like that. And
I think what it is for Everton, I said I won't stay on too long, but their away form isn't great either. I think if that was a home fixture, I'd fancy them a little bit more just to bring it down. But it's not. It's away, so it'll be interesting. We'll move on anyway to someone I mentioned earlier I'd like to talk about, and that's new boy Alex Iwobi, who came in the summer. Now we were both sitting at the news desk at the Echo, wasn't we, when Iwobi's kind of transfer or news of it come from nowhere? Was it the second to last day of the window?
Yeah, it was certainly inside the second to last. It might have even been the last, you know.
And it stands out to me that I remember you saying you like Iwobi.
Yeah, my first thought was it's an interesting outside the box type sign. Yeah, that didn't even cross my mind as an option. If I'm honest,
and I think a lot of people, and I did a piece at the time along these lines, so this isn't me kind of saying I knew better than all you, because this is the impression we were getting. But a lot of people thought he was going to be a Zaha alternative, and I don't know if it was a masterstroke in that he was going to be something a little bit more, or they were just looking for a Zaha alternative, and he proved out to be this person. But he's probably not.
I hope he wasn't.
Yeah,
because that's a little bit concerning.
Yeah, exactly. That's the point I was about to say. He's not a winger, is he? Really, his profile doesn't suit being a wide player.
No, if from what I pick up on whenever I look at Iwobi, he always shows up well in regards to being a player that is capable of progressing the ball up the field, which is easier said than done. It sounds very simple, but in terms of advancing up the pitch, getting from A to B, that's what I think is Iwobi's best quality. Good in tight spaces, doesn't need many touches to make a decision on the ball, and his decision is usually good. So he's a player that, I mean, I'm not sure if you're about to mention it, but he's a player that, for me, seems to suit quite a central role in a lot of systems.
Yeah.
Perhaps even as an 8, depending on who's surrounding him and depending on, again, what your system is. But I do really like him as a player.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, spot on. Totally echo it. Yeah, I've been banging the drum really for him as a number 10, but I have said even as a number 8, if Everton were looking to deploy a 4-3-3 type formation, which I think Silva still wants to do, and I'm not too sure. He's had some opportunities, but this season, just with the injuries, it's been difficult to kind of fill that midfield. But I would like to see him as an 8. I think he could be really good in that role. But if we just focus on being a number 10, yeah, I have to agree. He's really dynamic. Although the sample size in terms of minutes is different between the two players, but this season he's averaged around just short of 25 passes received per 90 minutes. When you compare that to Sigurdsson, who averages just on 20 per 90, I think it shows Iwobi is just better at finding pockets, using that kind of awareness to find the holes within the opposition's setup. Yeah,
well, that was one thing I was going to make, but I've took a little slightly alternative route on that. I think he's more inclined to show for the ball as well. So I just looked at over the past calendar year, 38 number 10s have played over 1,500 minutes in Europe's top 5 leagues. 38, and Sigurdsson's 34th for passes per 90.
Yeah,
now, I know that's obviously reliant on tactics and style and all things like that, but it's basically it does also capture that he doesn't see the ball a great deal, considering he's technically a link man, really.
Yeah.
In a number 10, obviously different responsibilities and things like that, but a main responsibility usually is to link the play, to provide a bit of glue, or like the whole advanced pivot kind of thing.
Yeah. And you see, the thing I have with Sigurdsson, and I do like Sigurdsson, I think he's almost like I don't know, he's although he still hasn't scored a direct free kick since he's joined Everton, but I was about to say he's a set piece specialist. I don't know if that's actually accurate, but he's perceived as one anyway. And I always find he can produce match-winning moments, and he'll always give you a moment within a game. Whether that be a through ball or, a really good cross into the box. He'll always give you a moment, but his all-round tendency to drift through a game, unnoticed really, often outweighs those fleeting contributions.
Yeah, I totally agree that he's one player who's definitely capable of almost winning a match on his own.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think in the grand scheme of things, he's inclined to negatively impact the system.
Yeah.
Just because he's almost like a cog that's not working sometimes. And if obviously if a cog falls down, then the whole system breaks, sort of thing. I don't think he's as bad as that, but I don't know. I've always looked at Sigurdsson and thought he looks to me as though he's got similar qualities in terms of delivery to De Bruyne and Alexander-Arnold. And I'm always curious as to whether he never really seems to be tested in the 4-2-3-1 on the right side. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, so coming into the half space type.
Yeah, just so he can put those deliveries in from the inside right position. just as a test, because I'm just not certain he's a 10. I'm not sure he's a positive contributor as a 10.
I think we can probably say he isn't really. Certainly now, obviously he's getting older as well. He just hasn't. I don't think he just hasn't got that prowess in that area that you need.
Like I watched Iwobi a couple of weeks ago against West Ham at Goodison. Everton played superb on the day, but I picked up on Iwobi making a real difference because he was inclined to just like pick up the ball and play a really short pass around the corner with like 1-2 touches. Good in tight spaces, as I've said, linking the play without requiring any real time on the ball and things like that, and just moving, as I said, moving this team up the pitch, but doing it quickly without allowing the opposing team to actually assess the situation.
Yeah, that's it. Too often, Sigurdsson will just allow sides to get, because he is a bit slow and laboured, he just allows sides to switch into the environment and organise and work out what's going on, who's making passes where, close them down, take that yard. That, as you said, Iwobi doesn't. I put a thread on Twitter about Iwobi's impact. Now, Iwobi actually didn't start the Southampton game. He was on the bench and Sigurdsson started number 10. But Iwobi come on in the second half, and for me, I thought he was integral to the second goal. The ball's played into him in the centre circle, and for me, I think Sigurdsson, he goes back to goal at this point, takes a touch there before spinning round on it, and Iwobi takes no touch, lets the ball roll past him, drives forward with the ball to allow Sidibe to make the overlap and run. And then he plays a perfectly weighted ball for Sidibe to run onto and put across it. It was just a brilliant piece of play that didn't really get the credit it deserves, and also a piece of play I don't think Sigurdsson would have been capable of producing.
Yeah, I just think he's a little bit of a tactical misfit in terms of like he is capable of those moments in matches, so he almost just gets a place in the side, but he requires certain circumstances to be able to apply his game on the pitch. And I think, Coutinho was similar to that. Coutinho's got to have that kind of like hybrid role from the left to the central midfield, and he's got to be allowed to like see lots of the ball and shoot wherever he wants and things like that. And if you're good enough to demand that, fine, it's worth doing. Sigurdsson was undoubtedly good enough to demand that at Swansea, and it looked as though whenever Swansea scored, it was him doing it. But the higher up you climb, the better you've got to be to demand such a tailored tactical role. The highest I can think of is Messi. Obviously, he spends the majority of the match walking. He's got his own role virtually. But because of what he delivers, he is worth those adjustments. I'm just not sure Sigurdsson is.
Yeah, spot on, mate. Highly. Totally agree. Just quickly, a final word on Iwobi. The only negative I can really think at the moment is he doesn't have a lot of goals to his game. He's scored 2 so far this season, all competitions. 3 last season, I think it was, for Arsenal. But that's only league and domestic cup. I know he scored in the Europa League final, didn't he? Did he? Yeah, I'm sure he did. Who? Iwobi.
Oh, I'm not sure.
Yeah, we'll say he did for now. I can't quite remember. But anyway, yeah, so Iwobi's lacking goals for his game at the moment. Do you think that's something that should be a concern, or?
I know.
Yeah,
I don't think it's a problem.
Would you? Because is this because you consider him more of a creator than a goal scorer?
Yeah, it is goal scoring's not a problem, providing you get goals from elsewhere.
Yeah,
I think you let him do what he's good at in the team, which is, for me, progressing the ball, and you let other people do the scoring. Okay, them players might not be there at the minute. But as I said, we were talking about Brands' recruitment there. If he keeps going in the way he's going, maybe be inclined to move Iwobi into either a number 10 or an 8.
Yeah.
Get players in the team who are going to score, and then there's less of an emphasis on Iwobi to do so.
Yeah. It was Iwobi who scored in that final, by the way. Just to confirm. Yeah, I'm really conscious that time's getting away from us here. But I just want to touch on Moise Kean very quickly. Now, Evertonians were over the moon with this signing. And so was I, to be honest. Really exciting. we haven't really seen anything of him so far. And when he has come in, he's been a bit of a misfit. He's looked a little bit out of sorts, and yeah, it's a strange one, really. I still think he's going to be a success big time. I think he potentially needs a run in the side. Obviously, through the week, he played for the Italy under-21 side and scored 2 goals. Maybe that's the confidence he needs. Do you think he'd still be a really good player for Everton?
Yeah, I don't see much of an issue at the minute. He's only been in, not for long, basically, and I think he's 19 years old, isn't he?
He scored 6 goals in Serie A last season before, over like very little playing time.
I think, considering his profile, how good he is for his age, what he offers and things like that, again, going back to the whole risk thing regarding recruitment, I think he's a very low risk sign.
Yeah.
I think even
for the money. Even though I agree, I'm putting.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, even if he has a nightmare, I still think you're getting a good amount of money back for him when it comes to eventually selling him. Yeah. I think he's worth, was it 30 million or so?
Yeah, something like that, yeah. Potentially rising to say 40.
I think, considering his current profile and you know, how complete his game is at such a young age, still a teenager, as I said, I think he was worth the risk, and I think it'd have to go seriously badly wrong for Everton to take a hit, I think, on him.
And he for me is kind of the perfect recruitment strategy, what I've been wanting Everton to kind of install for a while, in the sense that, you know, Everton aren't the elite in the Premier League. You know, there could maybe a tier or 2 below. So what I really want to see Everton do then is invest in younger players who they can reap benefits on the pitch as they advance and improve, and then sell them on for profits. And that's how they sustain as a club, rather than relying on the likes of Shiri putting in, you know, 150, 200 million every couple of years, which is really difficult to do now anyway because of financial fair play. So I think he was the type of sign I was really happy with, and I think it's a statement of where Everton are in terms of recruitments. So as I said, that there's no point dwelling too much on Southampton. It was Everton's first away win of the season, which was good. I think it carried a lot with the story of Everton's season so far, in terms of, you know, the better side, but not necessarily dominating. They've relied on a goal late on from Richarlison to get all 3 points, but I think it was important to get the victory. XG numbers 1.47 in their favour compared to 0.78 for Southampton, and I think 0.52 of that XG for Southampton was the goal itself, which was Danny Ings from around 6 yards out. So on the whole, he didn't really let Southampton create a lot.
No, I mean, you know, from an objective stance, it's kind of the ideal game, really. I think, how many shots did you say Everton had?
Everton had 19 with 6 on target.
Yeah, well, I mean, Southampton, I think, took about 6, was it? Something
less than that, actually. They took 4 with 3 on target.
Well, that comes back to what we said before. If you're dominating the shot count to that extent, you're going to win most weeks.
Yeah.
So that is a perfect example of what Everton and what every team should be striving to get towards.
Yeah.
It's just quite remarkable how many teams in the Premier League just they just can't do it.
Yeah.
So any team that does start to do it tends to climb really quickly.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, Arsenal can't do it at the minute. Man United can't do it at the minute. Chelsea can. Spurs can't at the minute, but obviously we'll see how that one goes from now onwards. So
Everton face Norwich this weekend, first game after the international break. Bear in mind the fixtures on the horizon, I think it's a huge game. And I said to you before we started recording, for me, this is probably, bear in mind it's a home fixture, it's probably the easiest game in the Premier League. And that's no disrespect to Norwich, and this isn't me setting myself up for egg on my face if they go on to win at Goodison, but, you know, certainly pre-game, it should be the easiest fixture Everton will probably face over the next few months. You know, I was getting really frustrated. I've talked to you many a time about the false narrative around Norwich's ability after they beat City. But then they've gone on to lose something like 7 of the last 8 games. So would you agree that's probably the easiest fixture Everton can face?
Yeah, they look really really naive to me.
Yeah, really open.
I think I admire the whole sticking to your principles thing and refusing to change in that to an extent. But there will be a level where it gets to a point where you're like, don't start hitting it long by any means.
Yeah, of course.
Just make a few sensible decisions on the ball, or make a few sensible decisions regarding instructing a certain player to be a bit more cautious because of who he's up against, or risks in certain areas of the pitch. Just things like that. Just not seem to be. I think you can tell that they're a young team, a little bit fragile. And obviously, we were talking earlier about set pieces. Norwich are actually the smallest side in the league. So put a fiver on Yenny Mina or something, getting him from a corner.
Yeah, I didn't know we were doing tips, but that's probably a good one to be fair.
But yeah, I just think they're a very naive side, struggling at the minute.
Yeah,
to face the second most shots in the league, and they're full of mistakes for me that Everton are likely to provoke, considering that they're inclined to press quite high up the pitch.
Yeah. I mean, I watched them probably would have been. I've watched them a couple of times, but in terms of full 90 minutes where I was watching each detail of the game, I watched them at Anfield at the start of the season, and it was very just open and expansive at one end, and then they were creating chances, but I don't know, it was just a bit wild, wasn't it? And it just didn't feel like they didn't realise this is the Premier League where you kind of need a little bit more structure to your game.
Yeah, just a little bit more like realism, a bit more pragmatic about not even that, because I'm not going to take like the Andy Gray stance or something where you need to start hoofing it long or something. It's just a case of being a bit more sensible, a bit more streetwise about what you're doing.
Yeah.
So yeah, not a very good defensive game at all. And on the attacking side, they're currently 13th for shots taken, so they're a little bit worse than mid-table on the attacking side, and on the defensive side, they're the worst for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, mix them together and you're up against a team that's fairly, if you're considering as well the age of them, that the smallest side in the league and things like that, they are a relatively easy side to face.
Yeah, you're spot on. Well, we'll round it up there. Predictions for the game?
I am going to go 3-0 Everton.
3-0. And you know what? I'll go 4-1. Yeah, just so Everton seems to have a tendency to concede against players who haven't scored for a while, and Pukki's obviously in a huge drought for Norwich, but he did score 3 goals in 2 games over the international break. So maybe he might find a way to net one. But yeah,
I absolutely promise though that my 3-0 doesn't derive from the fact that Lucas Dean's in my fantasy team. A little bit of hope in that one, I think.
He needs to go back and man, actually. But listen, hopefully you enjoyed the first show. As I said, it'll be a regular show, and if you've got any feedback, by all means, if it's nice stuff, send us a tweet. If it's not, then DM us so no one else sees it. But hopefully you enjoyed it. Any questions, drop us a line, and hopefully we'll see you tuning in for the next one.